how to get the file name and display on a message box using VBA. First, type option explicit. Option explicit is to force yourself to declare all variables you will use. This is good programming practice. Next, create the subprocedure and name it Get Filename followed by a pair of parentheses. Press Enter to automatically close the subprocedure. Inside the subprocedure, declare a variable of type File Dialog Object and a variable of type string. Create an instance of File Dialog Object by setting File Dialog into our object variable. The MSO File Dialog file picker, inserted in the parentheses, is a constant called MSO File Dialog type. It specifies that the type of file dialog to display will allow the user to pick a file. Using VBAs with statement, define the properties of the file dialog box to limit the user's actions. Setting the property Allow Multi-Select to false limits the user to select only one file, while the Filters property will show only the files with .xls and .xlsx extensions and will place the string Excel file first in the drop-down list for types of files to display. At this point, our file dialog box is now ready. Once shown to the user can either select a file and press OK or simply cancel and close the file dialog box. Either way, we must provide response to handle each of these actions taken by the user, and we start by calling show method of the dialog box. There are two user actions that we need to respond to, so we will use an if statement to handle each user action. If the user selects a file and presses OK, we respond by assigning the file name of the selected file to our string variable. If the user cancels the transaction, we don't really need to do anything, but here, I would recommend still use the else statement and just put the comment, do nothing if canceled, just to maintain a good programming practice of covering all potential ends of a user action. This also provides better clarity on the logic applied by the programmer. Now that we have already assigned the file name to our string variable, we must verify that the assignment was successful, and the quickest and simplest way to do this is through a message box. Right after assignment, we execute a message box using our variable fName as first argument. If assignment was successful, the file name will appear on the message box as shown in the introduction of this video. To test this macro, click anywhere inside the subprocedure and press Run button on the debug toolbar. Then you can simulate user actions by selecting a file and pressing OK, or selecting a file and pressing Cancel. One more line of code we need to add before we wrap up. We need to unset the File Dialog Object from our fDialog Object variable to free up hardware memory by setting this variable to nothing. This may not be necessary as Excel has its own memory garbage collection, but then again, it is a good programming practice to explicitly release memory back to the heap. A few more notes on this tutorial. First, notice that the file name we have acquired is a fully qualified file name, as it still includes its directory information. We can use VBA's split function to further extract the file name itself. Second, the negative one we used in the if condition is the return value of the show method when user presses OK. On the other hand, a cancel returns a value of 0, and we can also use this value to form our if condition depending on our logic preferences. Third, the argument of 1 in selected items property is the index number of the file from a collection of selected items by the user. But since the user is limited to a single file, then we can straight away put this index to 1. Finally, take time to lay out your code properly. This will help you appreciate your work more. Your programs will surely become bigger and more complicated. When this happens, programmers tend to forget the very logic they have applied, so use comments as needed to avoid this. This tutorial ends here, and please comment for more VBA topics and better tutorials on our next videos. Thanks, and please like, subscribe, and share.